So you should see a notification coming at the bottom that we are good to go. Yeah, I think we are now live. Hi folks. So welcome to today's meetup. We have our today's meetup on future of observability in an experience-driven economy. We have our speaker as well with us today. She is Raji. Welcome, Raji. So folks, allow us some time to get started. I think there are only few folks have joined as of now. So we will wait for a couple of more minutes. I think we can get started around 3:02 or 3:03. Sure. Thank you. I think, folks, we have a decent number of folks available now, so we can get started. Let me quickly welcome Raji, who's the speaker today, and also introduce Raji. So, Raji is a product management director at Zoho Corp. In her 20 years of experience at company, she has gained extensive experience ranging from database scaling and network monitoring to application performance tracking and end user experience management as well. She currently leads the application performance monitoring section in the site 24/7, a cloud-based all-in-one monitoring product from Zoho Corp. She has an engineering degree in computer science from the College of Engineering, Chennai, and she is a fitness freak when she is not working. You can spot her running marathons, participating in cleanup drives, and traveling places all along with her 3 little ones. So a small introduction I could give about Raji. Raji, I would hand it over the session to you, and maybe you can get started and probably provide an elaborate introduction of yourself as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Sanchit. Okay. Good afternoon. I'm assuming you're all able to see me, hear me, and see my screen as well. So I've shared a screen, and I'll not be able to see the questions or the chat that is going on behind. Feel free to ask any questions that you have throughout the session, and I will answer them towards the end of the session. So the topic for today's discussion is future of observability in an experience-driven economy. So we have been hearing this observability, DevOps, SRE, we have a lot of groups, meetups. So as Sanchit was giving the introduction, so based on my experience in working in a product, so I'm going to share some tips on what things and how will be useful for DevOps and SRE. So it's a afternoon session, 3 p.m. Indian time. So I hope I make it lively and not put you all to sleep. Let me see. So feel free to interrupt Sanchit in case there are some technical issues that are being posted in the chat, because I'm in a different screen. I may not be able to see what's happening behind.
Sure, I'll take care of that.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So the topics that we'll be discussing today are about the importance of digital experience, and then about observability monitoring. What does it mean, and how do I see it? What are the similarities and what are the differences? Then the definitions or the visual representation for DevOps, SRE, and what observability has to do with them, and what are the pillars of observability? How can you go about achieving them, and what is in future for observability? These are some topics that I'll be covering, and the entire session will be for 35 or maximum 40 minutes. I'll try to keep it within 35 minutes so that I can take questions and answer them. Okay. So each section I'll just spend 5 minutes and cover. So first, digital experience. So when we hear this word experience, there are different kinds of experience that we talk about. User experience, customer experience, digital experience, employee experience. You can have this in any field that we have. You can talk about experience. But when I hear the term experience, or when I was reading through this about digital experience, the thing that came to my mind was this book by Cathy Sierra, the book titled Badass, Making Users Awesome. I'm sure some of you would have read this book. If not, it's worth a read. This will give you a different perspective of how you have to look at when you are dealing with customers. Could be in any business for that matter. Any business have users for us, customers for us. So what are the things that we have to put in front to make them feel a happy customer? So this has different perspectives or different anecdotes, and I'm going to just share a few of them which I felt is relevant for this topic of discussion today. So in one of the pages in this book, there is this question that she has. It would have been more lively if this was a in-presence meetup where I can see the audience reaction and take it forward. But anyway, I'm just sitting among the four walls of the room, looking at the pinhole camera and talking to you. I have put my video on so that at least you can see my reactions and me talking, even if I'm not able to see you people. So this is one of the questions in one of the pages in the book. Which would you rather have a user feel? Any business has end users, and what do you want your user to feel? And there are 4 options that the author gives. It might look a bit tricky question. You have to choose only one of them. So let's look at the options, what are available. This product is awesome. The product belongs to you. Assume the product belongs to you. You're the owner, or you're working for that product. So do you want your users to feel that this product is awesome, or this company is awesome? The company that is preparing or producing this product is awesome. Do you want the users to feel that? Or this brand is awesome. The brand that belongs to this company that is producing this product is awesome. It might look all of them are similar, or you can choose one. You can choose all of them. But if you have to choose only one answer, she goes on to say that none of this. There is one more option which you should be focusing on. Make the user feel, I am awesome. Make the user feel they are awesome because they are using the product, because they are using that brand. You might think, who will go and say that? People don't actually talk like that, right? They don't say, I am awesome. Nobody says that. They only say, I love this app, or I love this product. This app is amazing. So that's what people go and say. So that's what she says. She continues to say in the book, when a user says, this product is amazing, you should see what it does. They mean, I am amazing. You should see what I can do with it. So she goes on to say, if you get such users, what all they will do. So if you have a user feel, that's about user feeling that they are awesome, what do? They remain loyal. So they go about talking about your product. They evangelize. That's the free marketing that you get. They tolerate problems. Even if there are minor issues, they will be okay with it because they have that feeling that they are awesome because they are using the product. They resist competition. They will not move to any other competition. They'll continue to use this product. They'll form user groups and communities, get accessories, show off the results. And there could be user groups where if somebody else is having a problem, the product owner need not come and answer it. The other people who are using it will come and give answers for how to solve the issue. So those are the different ways the user does if they feel that they are awesome. So only if you get such a user, they are successful users, and that is the secret for sustained success. It's not enough if you are successful just for at the beginning. The success has to be a prolonged one. The success has to be a sustained one. For that, successful users are important. For successful users, user experience is important. Could be in any form. It could be in the way you talk with them. the phone call the salesperson takes and the way they talk, or the way you type your email and send to them, the way you give configurations in your product UI and make their life easier. So it could be in any form, but that experience is what is going to be the differentiator that differentiates your product with respect to the competition, because there is going to be competition. The differentiator factors, the important one is experience. So when we talk about experience, and we are also seeing that more and more businesses are moving towards the cloud, so the digital world and user experience. There is this Forbes article which talks about 100 different facts or stats about the user experience and digital transformation, the importance of it. I've just taken 5 points from here to substantiate the fact that the experience is important. 89% of companies have adopted digital first strategy. People have started moving towards digital. They don't even think of doing anything on premise. 86% of companies believe cloud technology is critical to digital transformation. It's not enough if you want to do the digital first way. It is equally important for you to use relevant technologies. You have to keep updating yourself and use the technology which are required for making your business into the digital presence. 67% of consumers will pay more for a great experience. See, this is again stats are showing that even if the cost is high, if you're giving a better experience, people will be ready to pay for it. 87% of companies think digital will disrupt their industry. So they have thought through it and they have started moving towards whatever business they have on premise to the digital world. And it is not just the startups or the SMBs who are moving to the digital world. It's even the enterprises. 83% of enterprise workloads are moving to the cloud or already in the cloud. So these are some of the stats which substantiate that experience is important. Moving in the digital world, the digital transformation and becoming digitalized is also important. So all this put together sums up that the digital experience matter, and we are in this era of experience-driven economy. I've told some different examples of what are the different ways you want to take care of experience. In all the ways, in all the fields, if you take care of experience, you will be able to lead against your competition and move forward in your business. So with that introduction of the experience and how and why it is important, let's move to observability. So all about observability that I have to talk about. So observability versus monitoring. So this is often discussed, or the people say this is same. What is the difference? Monitoring means observability. That's how it has been. But there is a slight difference, and I see it in a different way. The base of any system, if you want to monitor a be able to give the metrics that are required. They must support the protocols using which you can collect the metrics. So remember, only if the system is observable, you can monitor them. So observability forms the basement. That's the basement for any monitoring tool for you to build. On top of it lies monitoring. So only if when the system is observable, you can collect the monitoring metrics. Monitoring metrics vary depending on what you want to monitor. If you are monitoring your server, the metrics will vary. If you are monitoring your database or your file systems, the metrics will vary. If you're monitoring your websites or your user experience itself can be monitored, the metrics will vary. But monitoring is needed and it is important. And you collect lots of data. You collect humongous data through monitoring. There are so many monitoring tools available, and there are tons and tons of data that are being collected. What is important on top of this is analysis. There's no point in just collecting the data and keeping it as data silos in all the storage that we have. You have to analyze, or the tool must have the capability of analyzing and making meaningful result out of it. From the metrics that are collected, give meaningful reports, give meaningful interpretation of what the metrics that are being collected. So analysis is important on top of monitoring. So you have to look into all these three when you are choosing a monitoring tool. Your system have to be observable. Only then you can monitor. And with the monitoring data that you have collected, you have to apply some algorithms, analyze it, and make meaningful result out of it. So that's what is observability versus monitoring. So let me move on to the next section about DevOps, SRE, and observability. So there are different definitions or interpretations for DevOps SRE, and I see it in a different way. So how do I see them is, there used to be a time period. Even now this role exists. Possibly some 10 years ago, it used to be that these roles were total different roles. The developer was one role who actually takes care of writing the code, compiling it, seeing that there are no compilation errors, there are no code level errors, the quality is checked, and then bundling it together as one bundle. That's all. With that, the developer's role is over. They hand it over to another person who's an operator. Now the operator has to take care of deploying the build and the production setup, taking care of the availability, meeting up with the SLAs, looking into performance problems, attending to end user complaints, analyze the performance metrics that are being collected. All these used to be the role of operator. So there was a separate developer person, there was a separate operator person, and with digital picking up and the latest technologies picking up, these two roles merged and became DevOps. So I see DevOps as an individual who should have some amount of knowledge of what is happening in development to what is happening at the operation level. Because if these two roles are different, it's going to be a blame game, or the ball is not in my court game. So I do my part, then it's not my problem. You take care of operation. That's going to be a lot of to and fro, and that's going to delay the process. We are living in this digital world where you need to reach to the customers quickly. Everything is available online. When you take your product to the cloud, you can release so many releases in one day itself. It used to be during on-premise times, it used to be 6 months once we will upload. That's not the case. Today, you can do 6 builds in one day. So that being the case, DevOps has to have a complete knowledge, and it is the combination of these two is what I see. But as you see in this picture, the person is not a superhero to do everything by themselves, he or she. They have to depend on monitoring tools. And one more thing that is picking up is security, because we have now moved everything to the cloud. So DevSecOps is important. Apply security at all these layers, from the code development to the deployment to attending to customer complaints to looking into quality errors in the issues in the code. Security has to be applied at all the layers, and that is what DevSecOps, with businesses moving digital, DevSecOps is picking up. Now, this is about DevOps, and we are seeing now SRE is another terminology or another role that is more often heard and people are picking up. What does that mean? DevOps and SRE is, for me, are two sides of the same coin. If DevOps is about what to do, SRE deals about how to do them. So DevOps deals with the processes, policies to be followed. SRE is more direct operation, they deal with it. So I mean, this is all available when you go read about DevOps SRE. But to put it in simple terms, DevOps is the connection between dev and ops, and they focus primarily on the delivery speed, the product releases and configuration managements. And SRE's main focus is operation oriented. So their main focus is they have to work on the production setup, respond to incidences, monitor events, alerts, and the primary focus is reliability. So if I have to say it in Java terminologies, I'm sure some of you at least would have been developers or understand this. So it's a class SRE implements DevOps. That's how I see DevOps and SRE as. So for these two roles, what is that they have to know about observability? Let's quickly look into the cloud architecture layers. When you have your application deployed in the cloud, what are the different layers that are available? I've just classified them as four different layers, and it is the SRE or the DevOps role has to have a complete end-to-end visibility of what is happening in all these layers. It's not sufficient to know about only one layer, because problem could be anywhere. They have to have a complete knowledge of what is happening from end user layer to infrastructure layer. Just one liner of what these layers mean. End user layer is your browser, the layer where the end users connect using your web browsers or your mobile app or the tablets that they use. So that's the end user layer. The next layer is the application layer, where actually the business logic is hosted. Nowadays, a lot of new businesses that are picking up, they focus only on the application. Leave all the other part. You can make use of the providers that are available. Software as a service. So that's the layer, that's the application layer. Then the next layer is the platform layer, which comprises of your caching servers, NoSQL databases, queues, microservices, all of this combine the platform layer. There are vendors for this platform layer as well, which you can make use of. And the bottommost is your infrastructure layer, which comprises of your physical servers, virtual servers, cloud servers, load balancer, firewall, network, router, switch. All of this comprises the infrastructure layer. So the SRE or the DevOps person has to have a complete knowledge of what is happening in all these layers, so that when some problem occurs, they can quickly figure out where the problem is and go about fixing them and making sure it is released quickly to the customers. And that is possible with the help of monitoring tools. They will not be, it is impossible for them to do all this by themselves. They cannot be going and looking into what is happening in each of these layers, in what are the problems available. They have to take the help of monitoring tools. There are many tools available in the market. So that is about the DevOps SRE. With that, let's move on to what are the pillars of observability. I think so far so good. I'm assuming people are fine with this. Avinash, if you want to run some poll, I'm not sure if the platform allows poll. Feel free to run it in the backend. I'm just continuing with my presentation. Okay. So pillars of observability. So there are 3 pillars. Let's discuss each one of them in detail in the upcoming slides. But I'm sure these 3 pillars are known to people here. So the main 3 pillars of observability are metrics, the different metrics that we collect. As I said earlier, depending on what is that we are monitoring, the metrics will vary. And then traces. Traces are nothing but pinpointing the line of code that is going to have issue in your application. So that is the trace. And the third pillar is logs. Now that we are talking about cloud architectures and distributed environments, logs are very, very important. I will get into details of each of this, take 2 minutes for each of this to tell you the importance of what all need to be monitored in each of this section. So that's what I'm having under achieving observability. How can you achieve this observability components, the 3 pillars? So let's first talk about metrics. So when we have to talk about metrics, what are the metrics that you have to collect? The metrics that have to be collected, I've just classified them. There are many things, but I've just classified them as 5 important metrics that have to be collected. First is the availability metrics. We saw about the different layers, right? So the end user layer or the application or your platform components or your network components, all of them have to be up and running. So you have to collect uptime metrics. Uptime metrics is how long, what is the percentage up to which the devices are up and running, your servers are up and running. So how many requests are coming to that server? That's the load. So uptime is the first availability metric that you have to take care, because we are talking about cloud and people are looking for 99.999% availability. It has moved from 3 nines to 5 nines. It's almost like 100%, but it's okay. So that is how the competition is, and you should also be able to give that percentage availability for your customers. Security metrics. Now that things are all in the cloud, security metrics are important. Is your SSL certificate fine? When does it expire? Do you monitor them? Do you monitor your domain names? How long does it take for it to expire? Do you get alerted beforehand, before the expiry of the domain name? Is your page having some malware in your website? So those are some security metrics that you need to monitor. Are there any loopholes in your web page where hackers can get inside? So security metrics at all the layers. The ports that are open at your network layer or your firewalls, those are the metrics that have to be monitored with respect to security. Defacement of your website also needs to be monitored. The third thing is about the performance. Performance, it's not enough for you to monitor only availability. There is no order of preference for all these metrics. All these are important. So what you need to monitor with respect to performance is the response time. Again, with all these layers, what is the response time? How quickly are my pages responding? Is the problem because there is some component that is taking more time to load in the browser, or is the problem because there is some problem in my network connection? So all those performance metrics have to be collected. And what is the split up, where it is taking more time? How can I improve that? Because in this fast moving internet world, nobody has the time or patience to sit through pages that are going to take forever to load. If your page is going to take longer time, people will move to other tools. So performance is important, speed is important. There is no point in having all your resources up and running if they are going to be performing very, very slow. Slow is the new down. So keep in mind, performance have to be measured and monitored and improved. Only if you have better performance, you can come up in the search engine. How many of us go to the second or third page of any search engine? We don't do that, right? That performance metrics are important for your page to be ranked in the search engine as well. So that those metrics have to be collected. Scalability metrics. So it's not that you're going to have your business as only startups or SMBs. After your deployment, when you get a enterprise deal, you cannot go about planning saying that no, my resources will not handle. You cannot say that. So you have to take care of measuring all the scalability metrics as well. So scalability metrics will be both for vertical scaling as well as for horizontal scaling. Is your system capable of adding more resources or more instances dynamically based on the load? Or can you increase the instances of the RAM or the CPU based on the load that you get? Can you keep increasing in your single system itself? Those are some things that have to be taken care, that have to be monitored so that you don't miss enterprise customers when it comes in your doorsteps. So scalability metrics have to be taken care. Cost. Now that we are in the cloud, lot of time what we do is we just use our credit card to purchase instances. With that, the payment is being taken care by another department. We don't even know if the resources are utilized properly. There could be instances where we are simply paying for not using those systems. I have seen such instances in our office itself, and I'm sure I've heard this from many of our customers too. So cost is something important to be monitored. See if the resources are utilized correctly. So those metrics have to be monitored. So that's what I said. Depending on what you want to monitor, the metrics will vary, and all of them comes under the first pillar, which is metrics. Let's move on to the second pillar, that's a trace. Trace is nothing but you have to get to the line of code that is having issue. So that's what we mean by trace. So there used to be this time period where we had this monolith architecture. The application architecture has transformed from monolith to microservice architectures. What used to be a one system where you have all the business logic or the user interface, data access in one single component is now moved into containerized smaller pieces. Each one can run on its own. You can deploy each of it, you can bring down and deploy on its own. So that is the model in which the industry is moving towards. It might look very simple. Oh, okay, cool. The architecture is very simple. I can have each of these components individually, but the complexity lies in monitoring them. So the trace of where the problem happens have to be figured out, and for which tracing is important both in a monolith as well as in a microservice architecture. You have to trace across tiers. As I said, is it a problem? How many times is there a loop in my web server? Or is it a problem because there is the database connection that has not been closed that is causing the issue? So you must be able to trace from the web client to the database tier. For the entire workflow has to be traced, for which the tool has to support tracing. And the tracing has to be applied for even microservice architecture, because in microservice architecture, each component is written in its own language and each of them can start and stop on its own. So tracing across this microservice architecture is what is distributed tracing. And this is very crucial if you have to monitor the microservice architecture. Moving on to logs. Logs are very important because now that we are distributed, we have this distributed cloud architecture. The SRE or the DevOps person cannot go and look into each of the servers in different data centers to see where the problem is. So logs is nothing but consolidate logs across all the servers from known platforms, do some real-time processing, do all the analysis and store it in such a way that you can simply query and see what the problem is. Because when some problem occurs, the first thing we do is we go and look at the logs. Now, it is important, all of them are in one single place. So simply put it in simple terms, Converting the unstructured data into a structured data is what is logs, and logs is important. That's the third pillar. And the tool must be able to support all the known common applications. I've just listed few. There are hundreds of common application platforms, and the logs of each of them have to be supported in the tool. And logs are also important for one more perspective, which is nothing but audit. Because in cloud deployment, people will easily say, I did not do this configuration. How did this change happen? So you need to have an audit of who made the change, what change was done, when was done. You need to have all this information to prove. You need all those data to prove that your system is working fine. So the audit of the application logs or the database logs, the access logs, network logs, all these in one place is important for audit and security, to have the evidence of what changes were done, by whom, when was the change done. So that forms the logs pillar. So all of this put together, observability in a nutshell is the three pillars: the metrics, traces, and logs. If the tool takes care of all these three, you will be able to have the complete picture of what is happening in your application. So, and for which monitoring tools can help. These are just sample screenshots. You have to make use of tools. Now we have come to the last part. What is the future of observability? What does future has in its store for observability? I have three things to talk about. First is AI. So I'll get in detail about what AI can do and how AI can help DevOps and SRE. And then about function as a service, which is again picking up. We saw monolith architecture to microservice to serverless is what is the future that is going. And then I'll talk about ICE. So ICE. Remember to ask me what this is. I'll tell towards the end. So these are the three things that I have to talk about the future of observability. First, about AI. So how AI ops can help SREs or DevOps. There are various ways it can help. I'm just listing few of them here. So AI could help DevOps by promoting feedbacks. Now that we are collecting performance data based on what is the data that is available, the AI engine will be able to see what is going to come in the future and give predictions and give feedbacks, how you can take it forward. With respect to AI, there is one thing that is important that we have to keep in mind. AI is only artificial intelligence. So the engine is only as powerful as what the data is fed into the system. So it is important for us to train the AI system with correct, accurate data points so that the system can help us. If you're going to feed the system with only garbage data, you will only get garbage out. Garbage in is only garbage out. So it is important to train the system with accurate and enough data points. That is when the AI will be able to help us in our predictions as well. So that is something important to keep in mind, because a lot of time we hear people saying that no, it is not giving correct predictions, it's not giving correct answers. That's because the system is not being trained with sufficient data points. That's the only reason. And it can help by enabling communication. Communication at all layers are important. Chatbots are available. If you are using a tool already, then there must be a capability for a chatbot to bring the monitoring metrics into the same tool. So those, in that way, it can be helpful so that you need not go and look into another tool for what is the alert that is being triggered. So communication is enabled using AI ops. Manage a flurry of alerts. We get a huge number of alerts in a monitoring tool. The AI can help in segregating them based on the past history of how the segregation is being done, the severity. AI can do the first level segregation, and it can also allocate the first level technician. So it brings down the time to resolve. So because already a technician is assigned based on the previous history. So managing a flurry of alerts, the AI ops can help. Data correlation across tools. Whatever said and done, we will be using different tools for monitoring, and the data have to be correlated across them, for which AI can be really helpful. And then evaluate past performance. So it can say, last year during a New Year sale, your system requirement was some 10 different servers were required to manage the load on the system. So now the New Year sale is coming, add more systems. So such predictions the AI will be able to give based on the past performance data that the AI tool holds. Correlate test results. We have a lot of test environments. It could be the development testing. We have a production test testing. We have in-between staging testing. There are different levels of testings that we have. At each layer, the test results have to be correlated, for which AI can be helpful. Fine-tune deployment strategies. So we have the cloud deployments. There are multiple deployments like your local grid server on the production server, staging server, and a small deployment change that you do in one has to be carried forward to all the other. Similarly, you might have across the globe as well, different data centers in the different regions, and the same configuration have to be carried forward to all the data centers. Those things, fine-tuning can be done by AI. And as I said earlier, exhaustive training to prevent false alerts. Monitoring tools, important rule is to send alerts if some problem happens. It's equally important not to send false alert. That will have an impact on the credibility of the tool, because you're sending a false alert, then the people will not believe the system. So the AI can help in training and self-training itself so that it can prevent false alert based on the data that is fed to the system. So these are some of the ways in which AI can help DevOps and SRE. And I can go on talking about use cases of how it helps. It can help in decision making and can help in forecasting, the capacity planning and thresholds and all. You need not go and do any manual configuration. So that's a small experience that you're going to give. Keep it dynamic. Based on the past performance, change the thresholds dynamically. Help it with some, you can write some scripts and AI can do some script automations and start and restart a process. That's a corrective action that it can take. And conversational chatbots. These are all the different use cases which I can talk in detail, but I'm not getting into details. And the future for AI ops itself, more and more accurate anomaly detections and reducing noise. As I said, the false alerts have to be reduced, more forecasting and smarter automation, so that we are moving from being reactive to being proactive. So the world is changing towards, there is a problem. So what is the problem? Let me go and look into what caused. So ICE is nothing but, keep ICE in mind when you're looking for tool. I stands for integration, integrability, C for customizability, and E for extensibility. So what does it mean? I is integrability. Whatever we say, whatever tool you want to use, you will already be having some other tool. So the in-house tool, it could be in-house tools, or you might want to integrate it with some other third-party tools. The tools that you choose should have this integrability, and you must be able to work in smooth collision. So look if the tool has that provision. Customization. Nobody wants to use the tool that is being given to them. They might want to make some small tweaks, change the color, completely white label. I don't want to use your logo and your name. All those options should be available. So that's important. Extensibility. API option should be available. See if the tool is having REST API. We are talking about open sourcing things. People don't want to give any vendor specific agents in any of the applications that we use. So do we have that capabilities is something important. We are living in this era of citizen coders where people don't want to use whatever you give. There must be drag and drop option where I can build on top of it. That is the extension, and still it should work beautifully. So that, see if the tool has that capability. So remember, ICE, integrability, customizability, and extensibility. These three are important while choosing a tool. If you don't have these things, you will face problems at a later point. And the other point is function as a service. As I said earlier, the world is moving from monolith architecture to microservice to serverless. I don't want any servers. I can just do all the work that I want just using functions. There are providers, there are vendors who are giving such options. And in such case, how do you monitor the performance? That's very important, because now you don't even have a server where you can go and look at the metrics. It's all only functions. So monitoring them is very important. Serverless is the future that the world is moving towards, and monitoring such environment is also vital for the health of the application. So these are some things which I see is the future that it is moving towards, among other things that we have in place. So that's about the different pillars and how to achieve them and the future of observability. So there are multiple vendors available in the market, and Site 24/7 is one such tool that can take care of all your monitoring needs from one single console, AI-powered tool. So I talked about the 4 different layers, right? The website, the end user layer, the application layer, the platform layer, and the infrastructure layer. So Site 24/7 can help in monitoring all these layers. We have website monitoring, server monitoring, cloud, network monitoring, application performance monitoring, real user monitoring for monitoring the user experience where the problem occurs, application log management, cloud spend for monitoring your cloud cost and spend, status IQ for being transparent and effective communication with your end customers. So I'm not getting into details. I'm just saying among the other vendors, Site 24/7 is also one such vendor which is available in the market. And if I have to say, Site 24/7 is a tool from Zoho. I'm sure many of you know at least Zoho as an organization. If you don't know Site 24/7, Zoho has been there in business for 25 years. This is our 25th year now. And Site 24/7 is a monitoring tool from Zoho, which has been in the industry for the past 15 years now. And we use most of the tools or the functionalities that Zoho itself has. So the breadth of AI works, I've been saying AI is the future. So breadth of AI works, that the R&D works that we do at Zoho comprises of so many different things which our team has been working. There is a separate labs team that works on this, and we use them. We use some of the features like forecasting, anomalous behavior, root cause analysis, outage prediction in Site 24/7. It is like we use it internally for close to 2 years before we release it out to the customers, so that the system is trained enough and it doesn't give any false alert. And as I said, we are hosted on Zoho's data center. We have 10 different data centers across the globe in 5 different regions. In each region, we have a primary and a secondary location. So we have one in US, one in Europe, one in India, one in China, one in Australia. People can choose the data center that they want so that the data resides within the geographical boundary of the region, and you can be sure that your data doesn't go out of the geographical boundaries. And when we talk about security, Zoho being a cloud provider, we do give importance for security and compliance. We do undergo stringent audit process, and we are certified with all the required certifications that are needed for us to run in the cloud. So with that, I come to the end. So some of the key takeaways from this session for the last 30-35 minutes that I've been talking. So experience is important. Digital experience is important. That is one of the key differentiator for your business to lead against competition. And observability, we saw what is observability, what does it mean, what are the pillars, and how you can achieve them. The future of observability is on AI ops and the eyes and the function as a service that we saw. And Site 24/7 is one such tool that can help SREs and DevOps in achieving observability and helping you in delivering great end user experience to your customers. So I would like to end with this quote. So there is this quote from this Red Queen's quote, it is called, from the book Alice in Wonderland. I'm sure some of us would have read the book, or I didn't read when I was a child. I just read the book for my children. So the quote was very interesting, and that is applicable for all of us in whatever domain we are and whatever work we do. The quote goes like this: you have to be running as fast as you can in order to stay in the same place. And if you want to make any progress, you have to run twice as fast as you can. So why I'm bringing this here is, in this digital world that we are living in, if we don't keep ourselves updated, we will not be able to even forget about moving forward. We have to keep updating ourselves so that we can be in the same place at least, and think about futuristic, and then take the product to the next level. At Zoho, we always give importance for the technologies, the latest technologies that are coming up. We try to adopt them and bring it into our product so that we can pass on that benefit to our customers. So we do that. We do this in our product and in our business too. And this is applicable as individuals as well. So for us, if we have to be in this competitive world, we have to keep updating ourselves and we have to run along the journey so that we don't feel left behind. And take a snapshot of this. We will also be posting this in the chat bar. So this is a 6 months free pack that we are giving as a complimentary to people who are attending the meetup so that they can try the product. I did not get into the details of what the product can do and the product demonstration. I just set the tone of why monitoring was important and how tools can help. Site 24/7 is one such tool. I want you people to sign up using this URL. You get 6 months free pack, so you can try it out yourself. The product should, most of the time, our marketing strategy is the product will speak for us, whatever we want to say. So we would love to hear from you if there are any issues, and we can take a demo if needed. You can write to us one-on-one. But this is a tool which you can, using this link, if you sign up, you can figure out and experiment, work around with the product to see what the tool can offer. It's a 6 months free subscription that we are giving. And with that, I come to the end. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Raji. Thank you so much for the insightful session. I think we have one question from Azhar. So Azhar is asking, when it comes to cloud native spaces and when we have hybrid cloud strategies, what are the major challenges you might have experienced with data set with regards to AI ops?
Okay, when it comes to hybrid strategies. So with
Yes.
AI ops, be it hybrid or fully cloud or fully on-premise, the main challenge is in training the system. At least so far we have faced that as a challenge. Because the data that you feed into the system is very, very important. So if I have to give you an example, you cannot, we say about comparing with past performance, but you cannot compare today's data with just yesterday's data alone. You have, what I'm trying to say here is, you have to compare it with the actual data. If you collect the data on a Monday, you cannot compare that load with a Sunday. Saturday, Sunday, weekend, the load might vary. You have to compare it exactly with last Monday's data to see if they are same and if there is a deviation to produce an anomaly. So that is a learning which you get after you work, after you train the system. So before you take it to your customers, you have to run it yourself and see if it works. So that is the main challenge with respect to AI, so that we don't get into saying something false. If the system is trying to give some false information, the credibility is lost. So that is a challenge in hybrid as well. In hybrid environment where the data being collected are both from your local environment as well as from the cloud. For collecting data from your local setup, every tool has an agent. The on-premise Polar agent will be there. And like Site 24/7 is a cloud-based solution. So all your data can be visible only in the cloud, but you can monitor your hybrid infrastructure, hybrid platform as well, your websites and intranet features as well. So there again, the data lies in the cloud and the challenge is in the training the system.
There's another question from Niharika. How secure is FAS, the function as a service? What are security measures implemented on FAS?
Okay, as far as SaaS is concerned, that is software as a service, that's not something new.
I think she's referring to FAS, function as a service.
Okay, so function as a service is something new. If you talk about SaaS, it has been there in the industry. Applications deployed on the cloud has been there for the past 15 years now. Function as a service is something that is picking up now. So there are providers who are giving those entities. Security is important because you have your applications running as functions. So you should take care of the tools that you're using to monitor, should take care of making sure that the data is segregated. So the challenge here in function as a service will more be like you will not know the start point and the end point. That is a challenge because it is just spawned and you do the work and it is released. So the challenge will be to figuring out the starting and the end point, and as well as in getting the exact user's data. You should make sure that you don't use one user's data in other users' context. So those context settings and all will be very important. And these are the places where this open tools and open tracings are all picking up. I'm sure the challenges are there. The challenges in function as a service those are the two things that I said: the user management, or how you deploy the start and end point being not known, or the two things that I said. And every tool, every monitoring tool that is trying to give monitoring for this, or the function as a service itself, the providers, they are trying to take care of all these security measures so that security is not compromised. So it is not as established as an application as a service, but it is an evolving technology.
Thank you, Raji. There's another question from Abhishek. Cloud services like Azure have their in-house monitoring solutions. How does Site 24/7 help us in cloud-based website or app monitoring?
Okay, so that every tool, the open source, has their own monitoring. So Azure has its monitoring metrics, AWS has its monitoring metrics. But as a vendor, if you see, or as an application owner, or as a business owner, you're not going to deploy. At least we have seen cases where people are not going to just deploy it only in Azure. It is a mix. It's a hybrid. There are on-premise, there are public cloud, there are private clouds. Or even if you choose to deploy only in Azure, Azure gives metrics, but Site 24/7 applies a lot of additional metrics on top of it. We have our agent that can collect additional metrics, and we apply the anomaly detection. The AI engine applies anomalies, and it gives alertings, and there are reportings, the dashboards that are available. And you can use this as one single tool to monitor not just Azure, the other components of your business as well. So that is the USP that we have for Site 24/7.
Sure. I think in the similar context, I have a question. So I think since we're talking about observability, right? So do we have other public cloud services with regards to AIOps, with regards to detecting the failures in advance?
Detecting AIOps?
With the help of AIOps, can we detect failure in advance in systems?
You will be able to. There are monitoring tools that try to incorporate AIOps in it so that they can prevent issues from happening. But it depends on each tool has their own capabilities, or the metrics that they collect vary, and how much training they give for their data set vary. So that will vary from tool to tool. Every tool is trying to do that.
Are there services from public clouds, be it AWS or GCP?
Their monitoring tool itself will include AI capabilities. So it's not, I don't see it as a separate tool, because you need some base data. Yeah, it's more like you're asking, is there a platform where I can feed in the data and can give AI results? There are tools, but again, it depends on what data you give and what is the output you're expecting. The context is very important.
Okay.
So those training, you will have to feed in the system. It's like an open source where you say, this is the data, these are the metrics, and this is what the deviation that I'm looking for. So those are the algorithms that are already available for AI. There are the different algorithms. In our case, the AI labs teams takes care of applying those algorithms on the data set that we are giving. There are open source where you can feed in this data set and you can do the training yourself. You have to say them what anomaly you're looking for.
Sure, thank you. There's a follow-up question from Azhar. He's saying, following up on the training, what are the efficient training strategies so far has been successful with experiments at Zoho or Site 24/7? How much efficiency can be achieved with chaos engineering principles?
Okay, so we with respect to AI and Site 24/7, we use only the 4 things that I talked about. Forecasting is something we use, and anomaly detection is something we use. Outage prediction is something that we use, because we use only those that are relevant for monitoring needs. At AI as a lab, there are so many other functionalities that they have, like speech recognition or the OCR reading. So there are some 16 different technologies that we use. But with respect to Site 24/7, for monitoring needs is what we use. So in those cases, as I said, the lab's team actually takes care of implementing the algorithms on top of it. We feed it with the system. We feed it with the data points. So we feed it for forecasting, it is more like the disk usage prediction. So that based on the historical data of how the disk usage is growing in the last 7 days, your disk will be full in 21 days from now. Take care of adding more resources. So that's relevant for our monitoring needs. Similarly, for all the metrics that we collect. And about the outage predictions. the capacity planning. So the monitoring needs, whatever is needed is what we use. And the algorithms that are inbuilt are being used are taken care by the labs team, which is a dedicated team. If you're referring to know about the algorithms, that's a different team that takes care.
Okay, sure. There's another question from Shiva Kumar. What are the source endpoints to capture the infrastructure prediction matrix?
Sorry, source
endpoints to capture infrastructure prediction metrics.
Okay, with respect to infrastructure prediction, one thing that I talked about is this disk prediction. Disk usage prediction is one metric to take care. The other could be your files, number of files that are growing in your system. So the metrics will vary. So if you are talking about the server, one is this disk usage prediction, another could be your file usage prediction. So there could be the CPU growth prediction. So depending on the metrics that you collect, those are the endpoints that would be required. That would be monitored and the AI applied on top of them. Suppose that is for server. If you're taking the case of the end user URL, the web URL, the metrics will again vary. So with respect to server, the metrics monitored will be, we have some 10 to 20 different metrics that we are monitoring. Number of processes that are running in the system. What is the CPU usage, memory usage, disk usage? What are the logs that are being generated? The number of files that are available, the directory system that is available. So with respect to all these metrics, the AI can be applied and forecasting can be done. So those are the source points.
Sure. Thank you so much, Raji. I think these are the questions we had. Folks, if you have any other questions, feel free to put it in the chat. We have still, I think, have a few more minutes to go. So maybe Raji can take up some questions.
Yes, feel free to write to us as well if you're interested in a dedicated demo. We can arrange a sales team to give a demo for you, in addition to the URL that we have given where you can try it out yourself, the 6 months free pack.
Sure. I think if there are no further questions, then maybe we can conclude. We will have a lounge area as well. Maybe after we end the session, we can move to the lounge area and we can do networking as well. Okay. Let me take this opportunity to thank Raji for a wonderful session. Thank you so much, Raji, for giving the time and taking this session. It was really helpful.
Thank you.
And I'll be sharing some links with regards to the group, the DevOps and SRE user group Hyderabad. Please feel free to take a look and join the group with regards to either on Telegram or LinkedIn. So I'll be sharing that in the chat. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a nice day ahead.